In this video, I'll be painting 9 figures from the Masons Guild for the now defunct tabletop game Guild Ball. This video will specifically focus less on what colors I used and instead center around my thought process of trying to get better at speed painting in batch. After assembly, I primed the miniatures in black and followed this with a zenithal spray of white ink. I then hid inside to my desk, and already this is where my first major issue occurs. My intention was to slap down some of Army Painter Speedpaint stacked as my base coat, but they immediately ate away at the ink. To add some context, the ink was sprayed 24 hours prior to the Speedpaint being applied. This has happened to me before, but it's usually not this bad. Now, a smart person would have reapplied the ink via airbrush to fix the areas that were eaten away, and then varnished the miniatures before then again adding speed paints. I am not that bright, so instead, I pivot and move to oil paints that were thinned with mineral spirits. Not artist grade mineral spirits, mind you, but the industrial kind you degrease automotive parts with. Oddly enough, this doesn't harm the fragile acrylic ink in the slightest. The reason I decided to go to oil paints is because their application and cleanup is extremely easy, and washes can quickly add more saturation. Also, as I do later, you can add small amounts of oils here and there and then buff it away gently to change tones and add smoother blending. While the oils are setting up, I base coat all of the metals with acrylic metallic paint. This is one of the longest steps that I'll spend time on in this process. After about an hour, I gently wiped the excess oil off, which led into my second major issue. In some areas it took too much away. I'm not sure if this is from the high humidity from the summer, but I could have let it set for another hour or two. Once the metallics were completely dry, I add a blue Army Painter speed paint over it to tint it. And then once everything was dry, I head back to the airbrush booth and hit all of the miniatures with an anti-zenithal spray of violet to add some interesting shadows for the majority of what will be blue colors on the models. And here I run into a third major issue. I tried applying a very light spray of white ink from above to slightly lighten the colors to help guide highlights. And if you're saying to yourself this is just a bootleg version of what Marco Frazzoni does for his speed paint videos, you're absolutely right. Though here the issue wasn't the white ink from above being a bad idea, it's just that I don't have the same level of control that Marco does, and I ended up being too heavy-handed. Because of this, I had to oil wash everything again to bring back a little saturation, which meant another round of gentle oil cleaning. These were two steps that were not originally intended, but I ended up needing to help repair the mistakes that I had made along the way. This step didn't turn out being that bad, as the cobalt blue wash over the armor, at least to me, was better than the speed paint's tone. After removing the excess oils one more time, I begin adding metallic edge highlights and scratches on all of the metals. I know the flesh, hair, and clothing looks very rough at this stage, but those get cleaned up very quickly in the next step. Out of all the steps that I take in this project, adding these scratches and edge highlights to the metals took the longest. And from here, I finish highlighting and adding some slight tonal variations to the rest of the areas with little dabs and scratches of various oil paints, which I then gently buffed and smeared with a soft brush to blend them together. This took literal minutes of time for each miniature, and it hid a lot of the damage and ugly splotches that were left from previous steps. I then painted in the eyes, which I admittedly did not completely finish yet. I'm going to wait a good amount of time before dropping in the pupils because I want to make sure the other 2 layers have completely dried. So for now, they're just gonna look like vampires. I then finish off the base by blacking out the rim, adding a speed paint to the ground for a more earthly color, and then spreading some PVA glue and sprinkling on flocking. After shaking the excess flocking away, I can call it a night. And this is where I finished. Admittedly, this was not the look I was going for, but honestly, I kinda like it. They actually look like they were painted with oil. And though they have an undead appearance from not having pupils and having pale skin, coupled with the blues and purples on their clothing and armor, this wasn't intentional, but I kinda dig it. All in all, I spent under 2 hours apiece painting each miniature, with most of the time spent during the cleanup and assembly, the metallic base coat, and the metallic highlights and scratches. I also realized while editing this video that I completely forgot to add the various colorful tones to the baboon's face and ass. I intend on going back and adding that, however, I think now I'll continue the undead appearance and add these in a more faded manner to help maintain that lifeless feel. For lessons learned, no more speed paints with zenithal ink sprays. Cleaning these up was not a massive time sink, but wasted time is detrimental to the entire concept of speed painting. I think I'll also start with darker tones during the base coating process, as some of the colors I pulled out, which I thought would be highlights, ended up being more saturated, but less of a highlight color due to the white zenithal highlight that was added. Again, I'm happy with the sub 2 hour apiece effort, however I feel like I can get this time down a little further, just by tightening up my process and not having to fix problem areas created by speed paints eating away at ink. I haven't decided on if I'll just go straight to oils in the future, or if I varnish and try speed paints again, or maybe not zenithal with inks, and then use speed paints. There's a few tweaks I can make to improve my personal experience with speed painting in general. And that'll bring this video to its end. I hope you learned something or were inspired to collect and paint your own team of medieval trade gang of soccer players. If you have any questions, feel free to ask, and if you like the content of this video and would like to see more, you can easily support the channel by liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing. I'm Jim with Working with Miniatures. I'm truly grateful for your time, and I bid you a fond farewell. Until the next video.